Hello, my name is Rachael Lammey and I am the Director of Product at CrossRef. I'm sorry that we can't be with you at the meeting, but wanted to say congratulations to SciELO and all of their important work over the last 25 years. I wanted to talk about the future of research communication and things that we are seeing and trying to support at CrossRef. CrossRef is an organisation that we aim to make research outputs easy to find, cite, link, assess and reuse. We're not for profit, and we want to try to make scholarly communications better. And we do that by working with lots of organizations all around the world. When we're thinking about diversity and impact, we all know that research is global in nature and it can't live in its own silos, be that within a country, be that within a subject area, or be that under restricted access. So at CrossRef, as of today, we work with over 19,000 members from around the world, from over 150 countries. And those organizations have contributed over 150 million records for scholarly objects, from preprints, journal articles, books, data, and a growing range of other content types. And that's it's important to be able to support that breadth. And people use the information. It's not just about getting an identifier and registering the metadata. When organizations do that, we can see the impact. So we see 600 million queries per month. So what that means is, tools, services, researchers coming to CrossRef to ask for information on a work. And over 1 billion DOI resolutions every month. So people, machines, trying to resolve a DOI to be able to find the research on the publisher site at the institution. And they need to be able to rely on that in the long term so that we can see how research builds on each other, or if corrections or other updates have been made to the research over time. That's just how it works. Instead, I've talked about ways that people use the metadata, and sometimes that can be quite difficult to pin down. So in terms of the impact of registering works with CrossRef, I've talked about the numbers, but it means that the research is being fed downstream into tens and thousands of tools and services, and it can also be used for the purpose of research itself. So we see people analysing CrossRef metadata to look at things like peer review trends, publishing trends, trends in retractions, corrections, or other updates, or looking at who's funded a piece of research. When I talk to my friends, those of whom work in research are always really grateful when it makes it easier just to manage their reference lists. So there's small applications right through to very big ones that can benefit the whole community. And we can only do that by being able to work together. And I think it also helps create efficiencies. Often organizations just don't have the bandwidth to be able to send their information on their publications to lots and lots of different services. So in a way, sending it to CrossRef helps that happen without our members having to do additional work. So that feels valuable as well, so that the impact or potential impact of a piece of research can be realized. As I said, research is global and it doesn't exist in isolation. We've started to talk about the research nexus at CrossRef, and that's a rich and reusable open network of relationships connecting research organizations, people, things, and actions. So a scholarly record that the global community can build on forever for the benefit of society. I think in the past, we focused a lot on the areas in the center of this diagram, so the identifiers or the DOI. But we've realized that we've started to think about this more broadly, and how metadata and how other metadata can, I guess, help build a richer picture of what's happened to a piece of research. And we're seeing like numbers behind the picture. So, as I said, we've recently registered the 150th millionth record, and we can see almost 12 million of these records contain at least one ORCID ID in the metadata. So we're connecting that up with who did the research. But we can also look at who's shared the research. Has it been updated? Who's funded the research? Do they participate in similarity check? Has it been annotated? All of that sort of supplementary information that helps us all read around the research and help us decide whether we can trust it or whether we want to use it in our own research. And this information needs to be openly available so that anyone can access it. And that can only be achieved through input from the global research community and by trust. So when I'm thinking kind of about trust, one of the things that resonates is a decision that was made by our board, or the CrossRef board, and again, SciELO is a member of our board, to adopt what we call the principles of open scholarly infrastructure. And these aren't uniquely adopted by CrossRef. We're seeing other organizations agree that they want to represent themselves in this way, and they want to follow these important principles so that the community knows if they can trust the organization and what happens, what's going to happen in future, and if and how that organization can continue to serve their needs. We've all seen instances recently where tools, services, organizations have been acquired by, big players in the space. So we often get questions about, can CrossRef be bought? What, is it sustainable? Can we trust it to serve our needs? And we think that these principles go some way or a long way to addressing that. And we're also in discussions with other groups about how we can improve these principles over time. The principles center around governance, sustainability, and trust. So because we work with publishers from all around the world and other organizations, institutions, there are one of our biggest member types, funders, service providers, sponsoring organizations, members who work with sponsors. It's increasingly important that all of those organizations are represented in our governance and in the working groups that we support. We need our membership to be non-discriminatory. We need to operate transparently, and for the community to know that we won't lobby for interests of a subset of our members. If we achieve our mission, we can wind down. And we need to achieve that mission, we need to be sustainable. So we need to have a long-term plan for funding. We need to create a contingency fund, and we need to base our revenue on services. So the services that we provide, and not charge people for the data, because that has to be openly available for everyone to use. And that's the insurance. We're working to make more of our infrastructure and the tools that we use to do our day-to-day operations open source. So people talk about forkability. So my colleague Jeffrey will say, if CrossRef turns evil, could someone else take it and recreate it somewhere else? Or if a community felt that it no longer served their needs. So we're making technical improvements so that that's easier to do. And all of the new code that we write is open source. We make our data openly available in annual data dumps and via APIs. And we'll also be publishing our position on non-assertion. So again, we don't want to ring fence things that should be openly available for all to use. So that sort of underpins the accessibility of the information and hopefully the long-term trust in what CrossRef is doing and trying to do as part of a wider community. If we talk about research being global, then completeness and inclusivity of our community are paramount. So we know that organizations who want to become members, they can experience barriers to that and challenges. Those might differ by region, but they're generally a combination of financial, language, and technical challenges. In Brazil, we have great support from organizations like SciELO and ABEC, but we know that for some, cost can be the largest barrier to join. So I want to talk about some of the things that we've been trying to do to reduce those challenges. It said we are increasingly partnering with other organizations such as, but not limited to, ORCID, DataCite, and PKP to provide coordinated services. DOAJ and CrossRef work together to enable content from journals indexed on DOAJ to be more easily identified through the use of CrossRef metadata. ORCID Auto Update enables publications with CrossRef DOIs to be automatically added to ORCID author profiles. I think we've recently hit over 2 million author profiles being updated via that service. The CrossRef plugin, which has recently been upgraded for OJS, enables OJS users to register DOIs with CrossRef, and PKP can also act as a membership representative for eligible users who aren't able to join CrossRef directly. We've also recently acquired and opened the data from Retraction Watch on important updates to scholarly content that we currently don't have in CrossRef, although we'd like to build that out in coordination with our members. But opening up closed information and partnering with like-minded organizations will get us further forward together as a community. You said I've talked a little bit about challenges. Obviously, financial issues are one of the biggest barriers. And we also have challenges around the fact that we can currently only accept payments in US dollars, and countries have restrictions on how payments can be made. We work with 140 countries. That's a lot of languages to support. And unfortunately, we've struggled to be able to provide support in all languages. And for organizations that need additional support, they might struggle to access the needed resources. So we need to be able to improve on that as well. And from a technical perspective, we want to build language support and localization into the bones of the new interfaces that we build. And we also know that some organizations lack the technical skills to know how to register content or do so efficiently. Maybe they don't have the resources to gather additional metadata beyond the basics. So that can impact discoverability of content and inclusion in the wider scholarly record. So one of the things that we've done to try to address the financial barriers is that we've expanded what was our previous fee assistant program to waive the content registration fees for members that are based in specific organizations in specific countries. So at the start of 2023, we launched our GEM program, and This aims to give greater membership, equitability, and accessibility to organisations located in the least economically advantaged countries. This is based on the International Development Association list, and we also look at things like GNI per capita and creditworthiness. So we've discussed this with the World Bank, and they also prioritize these countries in their own strategies for access and other support. So if you want to read more, we provided a link to the blog, but we'll continue to review the countries that are eligible for to participate in this programme. And for them, we waive membership and content registration fees. That means that they can join CrossRef and contribute their metadata to the scholarly record at no cost. When we started the programme, this applied to 187 existing members in eligible countries. And I think by virtue of the programme, 8 months later, we're up to over 320 members in eligible countries. So we hope to see continued growth in this area. I've talked a little bit about our sponsor programme, and we're really grateful for our sponsors, who are generally not primary publishers, but they work with or publish on behalf of groups of smaller organisations that want to join CrossRef. And they work directly with CrossRef to provide billing, technical, and sometimes that important language support to the members that they work with. We also work with a great team of ambassadors, consisting of 42 volunteers around the world, including representatives from Brazil, of course, Mexico, Colombia, Kenya, Tanzania, Cameroon, Taiwan, to name a few. And they work in a variety of roles: publishers, editors, librarians, but they all share an enthusiasm and belief in our work, as well as a commitment to work with others to help folks in their community get to grips with all things CrossRef. It's really important to recognise the amazing work that people are already doing on our behalf and be able to provide them with a level of support which would make their lives easier, whilst at the same time improving global representation of CrossRef and improving our own knowledge of different communities. So we want to acknowledge this valuable group as well. And finally, with some of the organisations we work with, we support the PLACE programme. So that's Publishers Learning and Community Exchange. So that's an online public forum for organisations who wish to adopt best practices in scholarly publishing. Organisations can access information from multiple agencies in one place and ask questions of the experts and join conversations with each other. So there, we're talking about, in the previous section, I was talking about the bigger structural problems that we need to address to ensure that we can meet the needs of the community. In my role as Director of Product, I'm also thinking a lot about how we can support this technically. So I wanted to show a couple of areas where we're areas of focus that aim to again improve this kind of support. It said part of the ecosystem is, supporting other community-owned open identifiers to be able to build out that research nexus and provide more reliable information on who supported a piece of research and where it's come from. As part of that, CrossRef Datasite and California Digital Library have committed financially to supporting the Research Organisation Registry, or ROR, which is an open registry of over 100,000 research organisations based around the world, which is actively community curated and continuing to grow. Those of you who know CrossRef will know that we are that we support the collection of rower IDs in our metadata. And we're working with OJS to be able to support the addition of that in the metadata that's that OJS sends to CrossRef. We've also, in terms of efficiencies, recently announced that we are going to move away in time, not immediately, from supporting the funder registry, and instead are going to move to ROAR as our solution for supporting both identifiers for institutions and identifiers for funders. That will be a longer term project, but there are efficiencies in only supporting one registry, both for us and for the community. And it means more interoperability across different types of identifiers and to be able to increase the discoverability of content and the information that we can glean about a piece of content. We're working on, via our R&D team, a big project to improve matching. When you submit metadata to CrossRef, we do look at it and we try to match up your reference lists with DOIs for those references so that they can be linked to in the long term and support reporting on who has cited the research that you're publishing. We also, when we get a funder name in our metadata, if that's not matched with a funder ID, we try to find and assert that match. But it's been a while since we've looked at the matching that we do on references. And we think that there are ways that we can make that certainly more transparent, so we can share the code and the thinking and the parameters that we use to do that matching. That way the community can contribute to it or hone it if the way that we currently match isn't meeting their needs. So we're going to try to improve it and make it more transparent. We're starting to work on that with preprints and matching preprints to the version of record. We do that to an extent now, and we send preprint servers emails to tell them about potential matches we found. We think that we can improve that matching, and we think we can improve the way that we tell organizations about those matches so that it's not a manual email-based process and anyone can go and have a look and see those matches and decide to assert them or not. We've been sharing that with our funder, our preprint advisory group, and we'll be publishing the results of that soon and moving towards making that service a production service. And then, as said, you'll see things as we try to extend that to matching institutions, funding, and our references. It's a big project, but it's really important to support the work that we do to augment our member metadata, so taking some of that burden off them. If you're interested in matching between grant identifiers and research outputs, my colleague Dominika, who's leading the matching project, has published a really useful and interesting blog about linking grant identifiers to research outputs earlier this year. And if this is something that you're interested in, then do have a look at her work. And as I said, there'll be more to come on that. We also want to, thinking of areas where members struggle to support or to have the bandwidth to do some things themselves. We've had ambitions for some time to build a system that would allow for automatic deposit into an archive, and then to present access options to the person trying to access the content. We know that not all of our members have the resources to be able to make and maintain archiving arrangements for their content. We advise that they do so, but we also know the reality of the situation. So taking steps in this direction would help ensure that all CrossRef content had at least one archival solution backing it, and greatly contribute to the improved persistent resolvability of our records, and that benefits everyone. So we've put out a request for community comment, which we'll respond to soon, and start to lay the groundwork to plan what this would look like and how we would support it initially for open access publishers. And we've been talking to different archives and other organizations like PKP about their experiences and knowledge in this area. Of course, metadata is key. We are finishing up work on a metadata pipeline to support members who want to deposit new metadata fields and structures as we explore those. And Patricia Feeney, who is our head of metadata, is lining up a future project to explore proper comprehensive support for multilingual metadata in our schema, and being able to model that properly to support the organizations that we work with whose metadata is certainly not English first and have needs to be able to support providing metadata in two, if not more, languages. And we're also behind the scenes working on a more flexible metadata model to help the community to do more with that member metadata. I listed some content types at the beginning of this presentation. Every day we get organizations coming to us with content types that don't fit the neat little boxes that we currently support. So we need to be more flexible in the information that we collect and not be stuck with journal article, conference proceeding, data, because we're seeing a lot more breadth than that in the community. And also to be able to ask CrossRef or query CrossRef for information. We have an early version of a relationships API endpoint, which showcases this. And again, in the presentation, I provided a link to my colleague's blog, which shares an early version of that so that you could put in a DOI and find out everything that CrossRef knows that has some sort of relation to that DOI, be that a preprint, a data set that someone can see in DataCite, be that a mention on Wikipedia, or just a simple citation from another piece of work. And we're also, as part of that model, building in assertions. So giving ourselves the capacity to pull in metadata and data from other organizations like Retraction Watch to show other high quality sources of information on a work that we know our members will be interested in. This widens scope for participation and can give more information to our members and anyone else on the content that they're registering. So that helps build out that research Nexus vision, and it also builds in flexibility to evolve as the research ecosystem evolves. And I think that's really important, and it reflects what we're seeing and our capacity to be able to keep up with both the increased breadth of needs that our members have and the I guess the way that we can see the community breaking away with traditional structures or mechanisms to communicate research. So we're definitely busy, and we know that you're busy too. So we'd ask you to, continue to be involved with CrossRef, to give us your input, to send us your metadata, to join our community events, and to continue your valuable contributions to our community. You can get in touch via any of these mechanisms, and yeah, we hope that you will do. And finally, I want to say obrigada e parabéns ao SciELO for 25 years. It's been great to collaborate with you. Thank you, and have a great conference.